Hi, Kelela. I've been following your blogs. I was binge watching your videos. And lately, a lot of the experts say that if your channel is binge worthy, you got a good channel. So, guess what? You got a good channel. I'm not there yet, but I am getting great ideas for mine from yours. So, thank you so much. I just saw one of your vlogs about doctors and the weird ones and the ones you just had to tell us about. And like the doctor and butthole and not understanding. Oddly about it is I'm laying on my bed. I always have to have nose spray with me because I always need it. And as soon as I read it, watched it, I sat down and I said, I better make my video, talk about my doctor. And I sat down, I'm like, what am I sitting on? And I pulled out of my backsides. I'm like, why is my butt wet? I looked, I'm like, ooh, that could have been a butt doctor. Well, not a butt doctor. Back again. What I was saying was that if you wanted to come to my channel, it is listed under my name, Tammy Grasso, but it is known as, and I'm reading it right now because I'm in the process of changing it, A Faithful Life of a Single Mom of 3 with Terminal Cancer. And like you, I grew up basically not going to the doctor because we kind of lived a life where it was like we went to church in a very cultish church, and they had a lot of rules. And even though it was weird because we didn't go to the doctor, somewhat because of that, because my mom and dad didn't have that much money, and my parents were kind of, they used different kinds of remedies. We sold and took a lot of vitamins and protein shakes and protein bars. We went to the chiropractor, and this was in the 70s and 80s. Not normal. But we also didn't go to the doctor or the dentist very often, except for when first my mom went for the babies. The day my mom thought she was going into the hospital, he did end up, and he had his appendicitis attack, and he went to the hospital. Otherwise, if we had a cut or something, he made up some makeshift thing and put it on her leg, and we had home remedies. But when I got in middle school, I ended up with anorexia and depression, PTSD, and I don't know if I was sent to the hospital my first time from the school because of my eating disorder, my anorexia, or my depression. Maybe I tried to commit suicide or said I was going to. I don't think I actually did. I said I was going to. But that's basically when I went, would be from teachers or friends, my friends' parents who would take us. So anyway, I ended up having this lovely doctor when I was in college. I had an incident where I was at school and I was very anorexic and I wasn't eating, and I was supposed to be going to class all day, full schedule in Florida, working out way too much, and working on a play which we were doing, My Fair Lady, and I was the lead role, and that's very active. We had a little break and I kept passing out, and my friends were very scared. They went to my director and told her about it, and they said, get her back. If she does this, eats this, we'll see what she does. Otherwise, if she gets worse, you need to take her to the hospital. So basically that's what they did, and I did eat, but I didn't eat enough. And then they're like, you need to go to the hospital, because I guess I passed out. And it was weird because I said something like, I promise I'll eat a cheese ball. And I was like, they said I was so sincere, but they didn't know I would say that because I don't eat cheese, and they didn't have a cheese ball. But I was definitely willing to eat a cheese ball if I didn't have to go to the hospital. But I had to. And I woke up to a doctor who told me that I had a mild heart attack from my eating disorder, and they were transferring me to a hospital that had an eating disorder facility and a psychiatric place. And when I woke up there, I talked to the doctor, and basically he was Russian. Don't get me wrong. I do not have anything wrong with Russian people. I actually dated someone who's Russian. I learned Russian because I wanted to communicate with his family. And I have a treatment team right now that has an awesome doctor, and His name is Dr. Ostrowski, and I go out of my way to try to understand him because I love him and he's great. So, but this guy, I don't think his name it was a Russian name, like Rosen-Sosky or something like that. Probably end it with ski. He comes in. I've never met him before. I guess he read some of my my information, and my friends had talked to him. And he comes in basically like this. Hello there, Tommy. This is his beard, mustache. He had a very dark mustache, okay? He's very tan. And he had this mustache, just like this. Do you know that you're a very sick girl? And you have a very serious mood disorder. Do you know this, Tammy? I'm like, yeah. We need to transfer you to a place where you can get more help, okay? Yeah. If you say no, you are at an age where your parents can sign. I'm thinking, my parents are nowhere near here, and I'm already 18, ha! And he goes, and if they're not close, I will sign, and then you won't be able to get out. Yippee! My first time signing myself in the hospital. Anyway, he ends the whole time with, just remember, Timmy, you are a very sick girl, and you have a very serious mood disorder. Needless to say, he didn't say anything about my eating disorder. Just the mood disorder. And, guess 6 months later, I get the bill, and you'll never guess how much that. Less than 15 minutes of his absolutely brilliant brain with the wonderful ideas cost me like $600. Well, you have a very serious mood disorder. Anyway, that's mine, my first one. My other two are misdiagnoses. They're good doctors. They just, I don't know. When I had my breast cancer, when I was 36, I went in, I had a tumor something that was like the size of a pea. It was rolling around. I told my doctor about it. And she's like, oh, and I described it to her. And I said, I do have a grandmom who had a bilateral mastectomy in her 40s. And my mom's mom had colon cancer and died of it. And that goes together. And I said, I also have two aunts who had early stage breast cancer. And she goes, well, we know you have very cystic breast. I'm like, okay, yeah. I was barely an A. And there was all cysts in there, I guess. And she's like, well, does it hurt? And I'm like, yeah, sometimes it hurts. She goes, well, it's not cancer because cancer doesn't hurt. She sent me home. Okay. A year later, this tiny pea is now the size of a pretty large gumball. And my lymph nodes are large, and I'm not feeling too hot. It was a month after I left my ex-husband, an abusive situation. Finally got myself out of there. And I find the tumor while I'm living in my car. La, la, la. Actually, I was swimming at the Y and taking a shower at the Y. I'm like, oh, crap, it's back. So I mentioned it to my dad's, at the time, wife, and she's like, you gotta go to the doctor. Oh, my gosh. She's like on the phone trying to find me something. I'm like, I got something. I already know. I have a GYN, blah, blah, blah. So but I had to go back to my doctor, you know, the one who says cancer doesn't hurt. So I went back to her, and she's like, oh, Tammy, is this the same area? Yes. She felt it. She goes, well, you know, Tammy, you're really too young. And is it still hurt? And I'm like, yes, it still hurts. She goes, well, you know what? Just because you do have another lymph node that looks swollen, it's probably something. I'll give you your baseline mammogram, but I'm sure it's nothing. Don't be worried. You're too young, and cancer doesn't hurt. Needless to say, I ended up with stage 3B breast cancer. I had 3 tumors in one tiny little barely A breast, and the beginning of another in the other side. Yay me. I had to go through chemotherapy first, the surgery, and then chemotherapy. And I had to go back to her to be approved for my bilateral mastectomy. And I didn't want to, but I did. I walked in, she has all my charts all over, all my papers, and she evidently had not even looked. But as I sit there, she's like, well, it looks like you must have had cancer or something, because I got all this stuff from oncologists. So what's going on here? And she kind of opens it up. She stops for a second, and I guess on the front it says my diagnosis, which was stage 3B ductal carcinoma. And she opens it up and she mimics, like I could see her mouth move, and she goes, and then she stops and stares, and she looks at me dead in the eye, and she goes, I thought cancer didn't hurt. I said, I guess you thought wrong. An old wives' tale. Evidently it does, especially when it's old, further along. And if it's fed by estrogen and progesterone, when it's surging through, those hormones are surging through your body, that hurts. So you're wrong. So she was about to cry. Everybody says, why didn't you sue her? Honestly, I never went back to her, but those tears and that experience, I'm sure she will never make it again. But, so that's my number 2. Number 3, give me 1 minute. I went through my cancer treatment. It basically about took 2.5 years. I went back to school, got a great job, and then my tumor markers, I was still going to the doctor every 6 months. My tumor markers and my tumor markers were never high, but they are like levels that can show if cancer is growing in your body. So they had to test other things, and my like white cells and platelets and all of them never got back to normal. And I kept getting still sick, and then about 2014, I was just about to celebrate my 5 years no evidence of disease. They call it NED, which is like the big thing for breast cancer. Almost it's like I am clear. I don't have to worry about it after that. I mean, yes, we do have people like Olivia Newton-John who years later did end up getting it back, but for the most part, 5 years is a big deal. And I was just about to celebrate it, but I kept getting sick. And I went back to the doctor, and my levels were going down. Then I started getting this pain in my chest, this area where it felt like food was getting stuck. And then, so I had, like, talked to my doctor, and she's like, oh, you probably just have, like, acid reflux. She gives me something for that. Nothing works. And then I get this cough, and she's like, oh, well, it's probably this. Let's give you a scan that goes down. And they check that. Nothing. So she gives me another type of med. Can I please have a scan? No, I don't think it's anything. You have nothing to worry about. I get a full-blown cold, can't sleep, hot sweats, everything. I end up having to stop my work, at least what I thought was temporary. At that point, I basically barely could talk. I love singing, and I couldn't sing. I mean, literally, I had to take breaks even just to have a normal conversation. I couldn't sleep at all, but I couldn't do anything because I was so tired. My kids, I kept getting sick, and my kids were like, I have 3 kids. They're hard. They were doing a lot in school, middle school and high school, and they were just like, Mom, are you okay? So my sister works, oddly enough, for a breast surgeon in Michigan, which I live in Philly. So I was filling her in on everything, sending her pictures, telling her everything, and she was just going right to her doctors, and they were telling her to tell me this. And then they said, you need to go back, and you need to demand a CAT scan. If they don't, you're going to get on a plane, and we will give you a CAT scan here. So I get there. My doctor's not there for the week. Yay! Don't get me wrong, I liked her, but I know my body, and she wasn't listening. And so her colleague that I never met, I kind of went over my things, and I said, I kind of was told that I need to demand a scan. She goes, oh, you don't need to. I already started filling it out. You need a scan. And so I was like, okay, thanks. And so I get a call 2 days later from this doctor who I'd never met. She is literally crying. I am so sorry, Miss Grasso. I am so sorry. Oh, I don't know how to tell you this. I am so sorry. You need to get yourself right to the hospital. They found a very large tumor in your mediastinum and maybe some in your lungs, and they're kind of affecting your heart. And I am so sorry. I don't know how, I'm just so sorry. She felt really bad. This is like a year of fighting. After already fighting for my life, after fighting for getting the right diagnosis again, it's like again and again and again. Needless to say, I never went back to that doctor anymore either. And I am fighting. It turned out after another 6 months of being on wrong meds, and that I have some strange mediastinal metastatic, which means stage 4 end stage melanoma that has spread a lot, and it's only had like 6 or 4 or something other known diagnoses, and only one of them had similar treatments that I have, and only made it 9 months. I, however, made it now, year and a half. Yay! So treatment's hard. It's not chemo, it's immunotherapy, but it's really hard for me every other week being a single mom. But it gives me a lot of good stories to tell about when I'm feeling good. I can tell all these rotten stories about the doctors and the funny stories about the doctors, because there's a lot of funny stories about doctors. I had one who, eating disorder related, he had a hair that was like a toupee, and every time he would come around a corner, it would catch the air and be like that. And we would always make fun of him. And one time, because we were staying on him, I was staying in an eating disorder unit, so we were all young and college students and stuff. And one time, he came in late at night, and we didn't know he was coming in. And this girl was really funny, was doing, like, pretending she was him, walking down, as he does every morning, with his hair. And she turns around the corner, and he's watching her. He goes, "You got it wrong." And then he comes and he, like, does it with it, and he goes, "You got to give in where, like, more of your shoulder, it won't go all the way over." She goes, he's like, "If you go too far, it'll flop and fall off. You can't do that." But that's a cool doctor. I liked him. But anyway, keep up the good work with your blogging, and if you want, maybe help a little newer blogging thing for me. I highly doubt I'm going to get the 1,000 by the end of the month. I have plenty of people watching, but you can, if you want, join my little place I have at my place, and there'll be some things about my mental health and some about my cancer and a lot about my kids, and just a lot of fun. All right, talk to you later. Thanks again for, doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work. Bye-bye. Oh, my little thing that I think I'm going to say, my ending thing is, every night I say goodnight to my kids. But my daughter, I usually always say, or I'm trying to say, "See you in the AM." I go, "See you in the AM." But when she was really young, she would always answer back, "See you in the IAM." So now we say, "See you in the IAM." So guess what I'm going to say? See you in the IAM.